The Haunted Sanctuary. Deep in the heart of the countryside stood an ancient church, its weathered stone walls and crooked spire looming ominously against the twilight sky. Locals whispered tales of its haunted past, of spirits that wandered its corridors and specters that lurked in its shadowy corners. Few dared to venture near after nightfall, for the air grew thick with an otherworldly chill and the echoes of long-forgotten prayers seemed to linger in the stillness. Legend spoke of a tragic event that had cursed the church, staining its once hallowed grounds with darkness. Centuries ago, a devoted priest had been driven to madness by grief when his beloved daughter fell victim to a mysterious illness. In his despair, he made a pact with dark forces, invoking powers beyond his comprehension to bring her back from the brink of death. But the price of such forbidden magic was steep, and the priest's soul was consumed by the very darkness he had sought to harness. His daughter returned, but not as the girl he had known. She became a vessel for the malevolent spirits that now roamed the church, her innocent form twisted into something grotesque and inhuman. As the years passed, the church fell into disrepair, its once bustling congregation dwindling until only a handful of brave souls dared to attend services. But even they could not deny the palpable sense of unease that permeated the air, nor the whispered voices that seemed to echo through the empty pews. One stormy night, a group of thrill-seekers decided to explore the abandoned church, drawn by the allure of its sinister reputation. Armed with flashlights and cameras, they ventured into the darkness, unaware of the horrors that awaited them within. The old wooden doors groaned in protest as they pushed them open, revealing a cavernous interior shrouded in darkness. Their footsteps echoed hollowly as they made their way down the aisle, the flickering beams of their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the crumbling walls. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, causing the group to freeze in terror. One of their own had vanished without a trace, swallowed up by the darkness as if they had never existed. Panic ensued as they searched frantically for their missing companion, but their efforts were in vain. As they pressed deeper into the church, the air grew colder, and the oppressive weight of unseen eyes bore down upon them. Strange whispers filled their ears, taunting and tormenting them with promises of eternal damnation. In a desperate bid to escape, they stumbled upon a hidden chamber beneath the altar, its walls adorned with cryptic symbols and faded paintings of long-forgotten saints. But their sanctuary proved to be anything but safe, as the spirits that dwelled within the church closed in around them, hungry for souls to add to their ranks. With nowhere left to run, the group huddled together in terror, their prayers drowned out by the deafening roar of malevolent laughter. And as the darkness swallowed them whole, the cursed church claimed yet another victim, its secrets buried beneath the weight of centuries of sin and suffering. As the group huddled together in the dimly lit chamber beneath the altar, their hearts pounded with fear. The air was thick with an oppressive sense of dread, and they could feel the icy fingers of unseen entities closing in around them. "What do we do now?" whispered Sarah, her voice trembling with terror. "We need to find a way out of here," replied Jake, his flashlight beam sweeping frantically across the ancient walls. "There has to be some way to break the curse." But as they searched the chamber for a means of escape, they were met only with the eerie silence of the tomb-like room. The symbols etched into the walls seemed to pulse with a sinister energy, and the faded paintings of saints appeared to watch them with hollow eyes. Suddenly, a low rumbling filled the air, causing the floor beneath them to tremble. The walls of the chamber began to shake, sending dust and debris cascading down around them. It was as if the very foundations of the church were rebelling against their presence, determined to keep them trapped within its cursed confines. "We have to get out of here," shouted Mark, his voice barely audible over the deafening roar of crumbling stone. With a renewed sense of urgency, the group redoubled their efforts to find an exit, their hands scrabbling desperately at the rough-hewn walls. But no matter how hard they searched, they could find no way out of the chamber, no escape from the clutches of the malevolent spirits that lurked within. Just as they began to lose hope, a faint glimmer of light caught Sarah's eye. Wedged between two crumbling bricks, she spotted a small, iron key, its surface tarnished with age. "Look," she cried, holding up the key for the others to see. "Maybe this unlocks a door or something." With trembling hands, Jake took the key from Sarah and began to search the chamber for any sign of a locked door. And then, At the far end of the room, he spotted it, a narrow doorway hidden behind a tapestry depicting scenes of angels and demons locked in eternal combat. "Over here," he shouted, beckoning the others to follow him. With a collective sense of relief, the group hurried toward the doorway, their footsteps echoing loudly in the confined space. But as they reached the threshold, they were met with a sight that chilled them to the bone. Before them stretched a long, narrow corridor, its walls lined with row upon row of empty alcoves. And at the far end of the corridor, bathed in the flickering light of their flashlights, stood a figure clad in tattered robes, its face obscured by the shadows. For a moment, the group stood frozen in terror, their minds unable to comprehend the sight before them. And then, with a guttural groan, the figure began to move, its movements slow and deliberate as it shuffled toward them. "Run!" screamed Sarah, her voice raw with fear. With a collective cry, the group turned and fled down the corridor, their footsteps echoing loudly in the enclosed space. But no matter how fast they ran, the figure seemed to draw ever closer, its presence looming over them like a specter of death. Just as they reached the end of the corridor, they spotted a narrow staircase leading upwards, its steps worn smooth by centuries of use. With no other options left, they raced up the stairs, their hearts pounding in their chests. At last, they burst out into the open air, gasping for breath as they emerged onto the rooftop of the church. The storm had passed, leaving behind only the eerie glow of the moon as it cast its silvery light over the landscape below. But their moment of respite was short-lived, for as they looked out across the countryside, they saw that they were not alone. Surrounding the church on all sides were scores of shadowy figures, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light as they closed in around the ancient building. "We have to keep moving," said Jake, his voice grim. "We can't let them catch us." With a sense of grim determination, the group set off across the rooftop, their footsteps echoing loudly in the stillness of the night. But no matter which way they turned, they found themselves hemmed in on all sides by the relentless advance of the spirits that haunted the church. And then, just as they reached the edge of the roof, they saw it, a narrow ledge leading down to the ground below. With no other options left, they made a desperate leap of faith, their bodies plummeting through the darkness as they clung to the ledge for dear life. At last, they landed with a bone-jarring thud on the soft earth below, their bodies bruised and battered from the fall. But as they struggled to their feet, they knew that their ordeal was far from over. For even as they fled into the darkness, the haunted church loomed behind them like a sinister specter, its cursed walls pulsing with a malevolent energy that seemed to reach out and ensnare them in its grasp. And as they disappeared into the night, their screams echoing in the darkness, they knew that they would never truly escape the horrors that lurked within the haunted sanctuary.